You're about to hear from a group of experienced inmates discussing ways to avoid being sexually assaulted by other inmates or by staff. We recognize this does sometimes happen, and we want to do everything we can to stop it. This video is not intended to scare you, but to encourage you to do your time productively and safely with your fellow inmates.
I was 17 years old, and I robbed a photomat with a toy gun. It was pretty stupid. It landed me in an adult prison, and within 24 hours, in general population, some older inmates walked up and offered me a drink of spud juice. Pruno, it's a homemade liquor. What I didn't know was that they had spiked it with Thorazine, a heavy tranquilizer they gave to the mentally ill prisoners. When they were done raping me, they flipped a coin to see which one would own me. And by that afternoon, everyone on the yard had known what had happened to me. I had been turned out. From that point forward, I had to have a man to protect me from being raped again. In exchange for that protection, I had to service him. I'm telling you this so that it doesn't happen to you. So pay attention to this video.
Speaking up.
Discussing prison sexual assault.
The man in this video is right. Nobody deserves to be raped. Others don't have a right to try to intimidate you or even approach you for sex, certainly not to abuse you. It's not very easy for staff and prisoners to come together and to talk frankly about the difficult and sensitive subject of rape in prison. This group of individuals has agreed to come together for that purpose, in the hope that we can help prevent rape in the prisons around this country. That hope is buoyed up a little bit because there is a new law called the Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA. And we're going to talk some more about that law in a little bit. But right now, I think each of us would like to share why it is we decided to be part of this effort.
One young person that I remember in the past who was continually raped, and he finally committed suicide. He felt like he had no other avenue. He felt there was no other place to go. And at the time, many people knew this is what was happening to the person, and the kid could not live with it, and he hung himself.
When I first came into this institution and started doing time, across the hall from me, I witnessed a gang rape. I felt terrified and helpless, and I felt really guilty about not being able to do anything about that, hearing that going on. And I have a lot of guilt and regret because of that, and I'd like to kind of rectify that error that I made way back then.
Your guilt theme is one that I share because when I was a young warden, a prisoner was sexually assaulted by a staff member, and I really didn't know quite how to handle that. The prisoner didn't want to press charges. Of course, the staff member was dismissed, but I felt sad about that for a long time, that I didn't press harder to help support that prisoner in prosecuting the employee, because even though he left the department, he wasn't a risk to our prisoners anymore. He was a risk to somebody out there, and I should have done more.
It's kind of scary, but this is a very serious topic, and it's uncomfortable to talk about. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to watch this. They're going to be sitting in the crowd, giggling and laughing, and they're going to be uncomfortable talking about this or even hearing about this. Just be aware, because some of those people are the ones to look out for.
That person could be the one who sexually assaults you. You know, ultimately, it could be anybody.
Stereotype is it'll be somebody big and mean and scary. One staff member I recall looked like somebody's grandpa.
Right.
Certainly didn't look scary.
If the predator can be anyone, what about the victim?
It don't matter who you are, where you're from, what your race is, if you're gay or not gay, it doesn't matter. You know, it happens to anybody.
I mean, I've seen so many guys that come into prison as a tough guy, acting like a tough guy, sounding like a tough guy, and they get checked because of that. Then they're in the game, they're in the trick again, and they will be abused.
The thing is about the victim can be traded from perpetrator to perpetrator if you don't put a stop to it immediately.
We'll now take a few minutes for your local facilitators to talk about the policies and the procedures that affect your particular institution.
What to watch out for.
Yeah, I don't know who left this here, but I'm not really interested and I'm not taking it.
Folded laundry in a candy bar. Can sexual assaults really start out that way?
Those are all, you could say, down payments for a predator. You know, a simple gesture of somebody giving you a cup of coffee, a stamp so you can write.
Starts out slowly, and it's grooming and it's manipulation, and it starts with one person eyeing another person and saying, wait a minute, that guy has nothing. That guy has no one. This is my chance.
The way the guy handled it, 9 times out of 10, you will know who did that. You know, you'll know because somebody's already done little things for you to start off with. So you got an idea, oh yeah, Joe did that for me. So the smart thing that he did here was when he took the candy bar back, he didn't front him off. He made it a general statement. Well, you know, thanks guys, I really appreciate it. Don't eat candy, and don't play that game. You know, and that was a message for Joe, but it was in a general way. So now Joe's not fronted off.
What other advice would you offer offenders coming to prison? How can they prevent being involved in assaults?
I know when I first drove up, I was like the rest of the guys. I was scared to death. And I remember I was sitting in my cell in diagnostic, and I'm reading the rule book that they gave me, because you got to read the rule book, right? So I'm reading the rule book, and this old timer stops by, and he proceeded to throw some things out there for me, like when you come into the chow hall for the very first time, stay in the back of the line. Don't get in the front of the line and then go sit anywhere, because wherever you sit, chances are you're sitting in someone's spot.
There's a pecking order in prison. Coming into prison, you got to remember that, and you got to sit back and watch and see the pecking order. Protect yourself, you know, be safe about what you do.
Oh yeah.
Staying away from isolated areas, because in reality, that's where most rapes occur. Maybe it's good to have a buddy, you know, watch your back or something. Let you know, if you're going to go into an isolated area, maybe let him know where you're at.
Don't isolate, don't sit in your cell. That's also a way for a predator to see that you are totally separated from the institution and may make a move on you just because you are doing that.
Sometimes guys come in and they buy a lot of stuff from commissary and they kind of like pass it out to people, you know. People can misread that. Oh, he's got a lot of money, he's really friendly, seems like he's willing to do anything.
Playing pinochle, poker, any type of gambling, you know, betting on the races. Anything you could imagine to bet on, it's bet on in prison. And the debts get pretty outlandish. There's different forms of payment in prison, and unfortunately, rape is one of them.
When we come to prison, there will right away be groups of people, cliques or whatever you want to call them, gangs, whatever you want to call them, that may come up and ask you specifically, hey, you get high? Hey, you drink? You may have never said no to drugs and alcohol ever in your life, and I'm looking at myself at that situation. You've got to find that strength to say no and not put yourself in that position, because if you do, that's an extremely high-risk situation for sexual assault or physical assault, or to be robbed if you just got your commissary. They'll get you drunk, you pass out, you're done, you're through.
One important thing that all us as inmates need to follow is that it's respect. Have respect for each and every one of us.
There's places like the chapel where you can go up. There's a chapel library in most institutions. You can get good books there. There's school. And in time, just being able to sit back and watch, you will find a niche. You will find other people that you can get along with, or that you may not be so paranoid of.
Of course, there are some things to watch out for when it comes to staff also.
I think that it's important to report if you feel that staff are doing inappropriate pat-downs. If they're trying to get you to, on an ongoing basis, to do things outside what your usual job is.
You need to realize that that staff member is in a position of power. If it's a staff member, whether it's male or female, and an offender, the staff member is wrong.
The best prevention of all is me. Because when I know that something doesn't feel right, the little hair on the back of my neck starts standing up, and I'm going like, wait a minute, something's not right. You know, whether it's inmate or staff, that hair starts raising up on the back of my head. I know something's wrong and I need to do something. I need to back off. I need to probably report it, but I need to get out of there as quick as possible.
So follow your instincts.
Right.
I think we've heard from this group some excellent ideas about preventing sexual assaults in prison. We'll now take a break while you move to a discussion with your facilitator at your facility about how best to prevent rape there.
What you can do.
Why don't you tell me what's been going on?
Since I got here 4 months ago, I've been having problems with other inmates. And this one guy has actually helped me out quite a bit with them. He's been taking care of me and giving me food and commissary because I came in here with nothing. I have no family, and I didn't have any way of taking care of myself, and he's been pretty much doing that. The other day he hit me up and he asked me if I would do him a favor, and I said, yeah, of course, you know. And so when he told me what it was, that he wanted me to give him a blowjob, and what could I say? I told him no, I didn't feel that way. He pretty much told me that he's been covering for me and keeping people from hurting me and stuff like that, and he basically said that if I didn't do what he asked and I didn't take care of him, he wasn't going to take care of me anymore. So I gave in and did what he wanted.
Okay. Let me assure you, Mr. Jones, I think that it's very courageous for you to come forward like this.
Okay. Did that seem realistic to you?
It's probably one of the oldest tricks in the books, huh?
And especially the pressure of being in prison. You found yourself a buddy or a friend or someone who was going to protect you, and you're afraid to lose that protection. So a lot of guys would be willing to do almost anything to keep that so that they can feel safe.
Is it sexual assault if you become involved with somebody sexually for protection?
Definitely yes.
Definitely.
Because you're providing
That's your reasoning.
Yeah, you're providing a service for a service.
If it's for protection, it's not wanted attention.
Protection is absolutely exploitation, and it's sexual assault.
So we know inmates can exploit you, but so can some staff. Let's take a look at such a situation.
Mace, I have another cleaning detail for you.
Man, why can't you just leave him alone?
Mind your business.
So, having seen that scenario, any thoughts?
That guy right there, he knew what was going down. That's why when he turned his head and everything else, he knew what was happening. If I'm any kind of a friend, I'm going to do something about that.
If somebody's rolling up on your partner and he's about to get beat down, but he's got his back to him, natural instinct, if he's your partner, you're gonna yell, hey, he's coming.
Yeah. You're not gonna let him hang out there alone.
You have to report it or it's going to continue.
And it's really hard because, you know, you don't want to come off as a snitch.
We're not advocating someone stole a piece of cake at the chow hall, I'm going to go tell on him. That's not what we're advocating. We're advocating something much more serious.
And if it calls for reporting, if it calls for being a rat, well, I'm a rat because I'm going to help my partners out.
It's weak to not say something.
Regardless of whether you're assaulted by staff or by another inmate, what should you do?
Along the line, you have to do something. You have to report that for it to stop.
There's different ways of reporting. You know, you don't have to just go up in front of everybody and say, hey, this guy did something to me. Right. You know what I mean? There's ways of doing that to protect you and protect everybody involved. There's a concern form.
And concern forms, there's copies on the back, so as you write them, then keep that paper trail, keep that copy.
Maybe if you're comfortable talking with an officer, a certain officer, then, you know, approach him.
And you can tell who you can talk to, who you can bring things up to, and who you can't. Just sit back and you watch how they interact, and you go, oh, yeah, okay, that guy's cool. That's the guy I can talk to.
Most prisons will have staff that inmates are comfortable with. Put aside the convict code that it's us against them and be willing to step up and take care of the problem, so.
If it's something that you don't feel comfortable with talking with an officer about, don't. Go straight to a lieutenant or somebody who you feel comfortable in talking about that situation with. There's other routes that we can go to. The counselors in the units.
Maybe somebody in healthcare you'd be a little more comfortable talking about this with.
Or maybe even telling a friend. Maybe your friend's going to help you out by letting the man know or letting somebody know.
Hand in hand with that reporting process is not destroying any of the physical evidence.
So, don't shower, don't brush your teeth, and don't use the bathroom.
We want to make sure that that's all collected in a timely manner so that we can move forward to our ultimate goal, which is prosecution. There's so many things that can happen medically after an assault. AIDS, hepatitis, those are important issues too for lifelong health or shorter life.
So you can take a 5-year sentence and turn it into a death sentence real easy.
Yes, you can.
We're talking about assaults that have already happened. If you think something's going on, you're not sure how to deal with it, report it before it does happen.
Important thing is that it does get reported, and once it does get reported, then we get into a process of stopping it. You know what I mean? Because if there's enough reports, eventually, then people are going to know that it's not tolerated.
By leveling a heavy consequence for these kinds of actions in prison, it sends that universal message to everyone, everywhere, that this will no longer be tolerated. It's been our mindset for so many years, and we've had enough of it. I think this law will be effective because we've all been able to come out here today and sit and talk openly about this and put it all on the table and say this is how it is and this is how it needs to be.
You've had an opportunity today to hear about the Prison Rape Elimination Act. Your facilitator will talk with you about confidentiality issues and also about how investigations are conducted at your facility. We'd like you to take the information that is being handed out by the facilitator at your institution, along with the information that these experienced inmates and staff have shared with you today, and use it to stay safe and protect yourself from rape in prison.